Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, part 3 of our evening. It's our classic movie discussion here at the No Name Cinema Society on Monday, August 31st, 2015. And here you can see our movie for the night is The Philadelphia Story. You see it behind me, and now I'm coming in frame. I am really hot in here. I'm Jonathan Betzler. I am one of your hosts for the evening. Yeah, I had to turn the fan off for the sound, and I couldn't find my razor, so I got a little scruff. But what I do have is beer. So cheers to all you guys out there, and cheers to my boy, Dave Joseph. How you doing, Davey?
I'm doing great, doing great.
Okay, and J Money, tell us how do you feel the evening's going so far?
I'm staying cool. You're staying cool. Davey Joe is staying cool. We're all pretty cool.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure of anything at this point.
All right, so as you know, tonight's film is The Philadelphia Story. And in the film, Philadelphia socialite Tracy Lord is about to be married, and everybody wants to be a part of the action, including her ex-husband Dexter, a former novelist turned gossip columnist Mike Connors, Tracy's much younger daughter, crazy drunk Uncle Willie. Put it all together, and hilarity ensues. Which of you guys have you guys both seen this film before, having to watch it for this week?
I had not.
Oh, this is your first time. Oh,
Yeah.
that's charming. And what about you, J Money?
I saw it years ago, so it was nice to see it again.
Cool. And so, J Money, what did you think?
I loved it. I mean, I think that when I was younger, when I saw it, I probably appreciated it, but this time around, I loved it. So, where I stand. It was
actually the screening was not an official CMS. It was actually my birthday movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
Movie on my birthday every year. So back in June, people came over to watch it. That was the context for why we're talking about it tonight. David, Joe, what did you think first time watching?
It's funny because I was not even familiar with it. And then I saw the cast and I was really excited about the movie, and it's every bit as good as the cast would suggest. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I first saw it at Bryant Park in about 2003, and I introduced my girlfriend at the time. It was strong, and I mean, it's fun and impressive and witty and clever, and those are its main strengths. And I remember loving it then. But the film that either guys might have looked it up. Do either guys know the answer to the trivia question for this week? Do you remember what it was?
No.
The trivia question was, this movie was later made into a musical film in 1956 with songs by Cole Porter.
Right. I mean, I know, but I cheated, so you know.
Yeah, and you cheated because I sent you photos from the film.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, the film is called High Society. And I actually grew up with High Society first. And interestingly enough, the script is exactly the same, with added songs. And here, Bing Crosby plays the Cary Grant part, Grace Kelly plays Katharine Hepburn, and this guy on the right is actually the George Kittredge character. Frank Sinatra plays Mike Connors in the film. And as much as I love Philadelphia Story, are you nodding? Are you disregarding Frank Sinatra?
It's just, of course, Sinatra is. I mean, of course he's in this, you know.
Well, it is a musical.
Right.
I want to point out.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm just like.
I can't. In rewatching it this last time, I couldn't help shake the feeling that I enjoy, as much as I enjoy Philadelphia Story, I enjoy High Society more.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the 16 years between them, I mean, it's a little brisker editing, and also, more detail in terms of the camera work, because George Cukor's camera is, pretty stagnant, as is the style for a lot of this era. But I mean, we watched Great Dictator, and Chaplin was doing all sorts of things with the camera that Cukor doesn't even try to do in this film.
Obviously I can't speak to High Society, but even looking at the stills of it that you sent me, I thought it was actually really fascinating to see how much of it seemed to mirror a lot of the things that were happening with the original, with Philadelphia Story. The thing for me is I just can't see how it would translate as a musical. I don't know how you interject songs into this kind of
Cole
film.
Porter, you know.
But To me,
you have to see the film. I mean, I think they do it rather well, actually.
Well, I guess I would say the subject matter, and especially I can't imagine Grace Kelly as a stand-in for Katharine Hepburn in this film.
She's outstanding. And the other thing about it is, I mean, Katharine Hepburn is one of the greatest actresses of our generation. I'm not going to take anything away from her. But in terms of being this goddess that they talk about throughout the Philadelphia story, Grace Kelly is that. I mean, Grace Kelly looks the part more than Katharine Hepburn does.
But I don't think looks has to do with it necessarily.
I think it's a big part of it, and it's similar to what we talked about with Emily Ratajkowski in We Are Your Friends, but the reverse, in the sense that this one needed to be a goddess, and Katharine Hepburn is a fine actor. Grace Kelly is a fine actor in spite of how good-looking she is. I mean, she's probably top 3 most stunning women ever to grace the screen. No pun intended. And she's magnificent. She's magnificent in the in high society.
Yeah, but how bitter is she? I can't see her as being a bitter person.
Extremely, extremely. And right. I mean, and you're making suppositions based on what exactly? What Grace Kelly? Because Grace Kelly's an Oscar winner for an amazing performance in an adaptation of Clifford Odets play in 1954. Right. So if I don't know what you're basing your assumption on that Grace Kelly can't.
I'm basing my assumption based on the screenshots you gave me. Ultimately, I'm curious. I'm not saying that I will disregard anything you're saying. I'm now actually very curious to see High Society based on everything you're talking about, because I just can't picture it. I really can't. So I'm totally curious to see how this plays out.
And I mean, based on the stills, you can also see how close the structure of the pieces. I mean, yes,
I can see that, but I can also see how they sort of whitewashed a lot of stuff. And I don't mean that literally. I just mean that it certainly looks like a musical, whereas the Philadelphia Story doesn't look like a musical to me. So.
What do you mean? I don't understand. That looks like a musical. That doesn't even make sense.
I think that it does make sense to me. To me, it looked like it was much more about stage scenery and about setting a field for dancing, and it seemed like it was actually orchestrated around that, which is totally fine. I mean, that's what musicals should be. There's also a very specific.
There's no dancing. There's no dancing.
There's no dancing at all?
No.
What about that one scene around the pool?
Oh, that's just like a romantic dance. Like, that's not like a dance to a song. They're just like. They're dancing without music in that scene.
Interesting. I mean,
that's just like.
It's all reasons to check this out, really. I mean, it's just that to me, especially considering that it has Bing Crosby and good old Blue Eyes there, there's a quality to that already that I have to question in terms of using.
Well, another person that's in it that I couldn't find a still for, the Ruth Hussey character, the girl that's in love with Mike Connors, she was played by Celeste Holm in the High Society.
Now, who is Celeste Holm?
Oh my God.
Well,
I don't know. Photo of Celeste Holm's like one of the all-time great actresses. She's what's that? She was in All About Eve. She won an Oscar for Gentleman's Agreement.
Who was she in All About Eve?
She was the wife of the playwright in All About Eve, like one of the main supporting females.
I don't know if I remember her.
She's blonde, famously blonde.
Who is it?
Interestingly enough, she originated the role of a character on Broadway in a movie we watched the other night at a CMS.
Oh, interesting. Okay, fair enough.
Not the lead role, but the supporting female role, if you know where I'm going with that.
Sure, I know where you're going with that.
Anyway.
I don't want to seem critical of High Society. I don't know it. I'm just saying it was interesting to see all your still shots because I really couldn't picture this movie being translated in that way. So I'm curious.
But I mean, like, so think about this movie in terms of the other. We've seen a couple other films from 1940. So obviously we have to compare it to another film later on for the brackets. But I mean, we've seen Great Dictator and Pinocchio in the last few months. So I mean, to me, Philadelphia Story is a play adaptation. It rides it on cleverness, good performances, but not great performances, and charm. Whereas Great Dictator and even Pinocchio feel a little bit more comprehensive cinematically.
How do you mean? I don't understand you.
All the things that Great Dictator is trying to do within its within the format, within the filmic format, all the things that it was trying to accomplish, the level of meaning, the details, the higher impact on society, all those things I feel like make Great Dictator, and I had some criticisms of Great Dictator, obviously, But I mean, like, I feel like Great Dictator is a much more important film from the same year.
Well, but okay, again, are you saying that you feel like it's more important from a cultural standpoint, or do you feel like it's more important because it's actually more of a film?
Both.
That's interesting. I mean, I can certainly see how the Philadelphia Story was originally just a stage play. It certainly felt like the way that they were sort of blocking everybody out, and the way that the camera lingered for long periods of time over scenes that lasted for a while. I think for me that's why it stands out. I think for me that's part of the reason why it reacts strangely to the idea of it being a musical, because for me I saw a lot of interesting things happen in the performances, and I saw a lot of people that were sort of lingering in scenes in a way that was not necessarily typical of what you might expect from that. So that's part of the time.
Even still, it's fun. It's a fun movie, but even still, these characters are somewhat.
It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie with an acidic edge. I guess I don't think that I wouldn't say the characters were quite as two-dimensional as I think you're sort of getting from it. I understand what you're saying. They are characters ultimately. But I think that they also changed throughout the movie, and I also feel like there was a lot of growth that happened by the end of it. I mean, there were a couple.
It's a great screenplay. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to deny it that it is really, really strong. But I mean, let's also talk about. I mean, Jimmy Stewart won the Best Actor Oscar for this movie.
Yeah, I can buy that.
I mean. Now, there's no question, historically speaking, everyone says it's a makeup Oscar for losing Mr. Smith Goes to Washington the year before.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment, frankly.
That doesn't make it okay, because, I mean, like, can we all agree that, I mean, Stewart's fine, but he's not groundbreaking in this movie.
No, and I think that he deserved it for Mr. Smith, so I can totally see how that might have played out with what you're saying.
Well, but did you see what beat him? Have you seen Goodbye, Mr. Chips?
No, I haven't.
I mean, Robert Donat is a really good actor. The movie itself, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, isn't as good as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but the performance is quite remarkable. He ages 50 years.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Quite convincingly for 1939. This is not to take away from Jeff Smith in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but I mean, like, there's some when the filibuster scene is great. Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington, but when he's like the oaky old, when he's like the hokey kid looking around Washington, that stuff doesn't ring as true to me. And I mean, if I remember correctly, we watched that movie in December, the group and I. I mean, it was the female lead whose name is slipping my mind right now, but she was the one that really felt. She and Thomas Mitchell really felt like grounded characters. Claude Rains is another performance that I thought was really strong.
I don't want to. Well, I certainly don't want to turn this into a discussion about Mr. Smith. I guess I'm just saying in general, it's a performance that stuck out to me, and it certainly is a stronger performance than what he turned in this movie, in Philadelphia Story.
Fair enough.
So, to your point, I understand what you're saying here. His character in this is a little fluffy. I mean, I think that you can say whatever you want about the way that the characters interact in this movie, because there's not necessarily a lot of sensical way that they're acting. To me, it really is a movie about Katharine Hepburn. I mean, to me, she is the focus, but also she is the thing that everything pivots on. And I love seeing her range in this movie. I love seeing her go up and down this ladder constantly. I think that's why I give it more, credibility perhaps, because I think that she was acrobatic in her performance in this movie. She was constantly pushing herself all over the place.
Okay, but I would argue that she is funnier. Like if we're separating Katharine Hepburn comedy from Katharine Hepburn drama, which I think is a fair thing to do, because she can do both excellently, and she gives everything, this performance, everything she fits it perfectly. She does it. She executes everything fine. But she's far funnier and wilder in something like Bringing Up Baby, which I consider to be a significantly more impressive performance.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that people consider this a comedy. I don't necessarily consider this just a comedy. I guess I really don't frame it that way.
But I mean, I think it's too silly not to be. I mean, I think certainly the writers would consider it a comedy. Certainly this trailer that's up behind me calls it a comedy.
I can't frame this movie as being silly. I can't do that.
But I mean, like, it's clearly like high, it's stylized in that. I mean, because it's somewhat ridiculous there, and it's like a farce. It's like almost like Molière.
There's a farcical quality to it. I will definitely give you that. But I don't think the characters were farcical in and of themselves. I understand that the plot has farcical elements,
I mean, like, it's not a criticism for me to call it farcical.
I know. I'm not saying that you're criticizing it. I guess I'm just saying that I thought there was a lot more gravitas in this movie than just saying it was a funny, silly movie.
I want to get to Davy Joe, but you just made that statement, and I need to ask, what are you talking about? Gravitas.
I thought there was a lot more going on with, Katharine Hepburn.
I mean, are you talking about classism, perhaps?
Well, yeah, there's some discussion of classism, but I also think it was just about this idea of loneliness. I think there's a lot going on with the concept of loneliness in this movie that's actually pretty interesting, and it actually is more authentic for discussion than just, oh, this woman's flighty and she's kind of bouncing back and forth and she needs somebody. I think that the characters are outsized characters, but there's such a bitter edge to everybody. There's such an angry.
Yeah, I mean, like, the whole time I always felt like Dexter, and this might come from high society too, because it all comes from what you experience first, I think,
Sure.
At the same time. And I grew up with high society and didn't see Philadelphia Story until after I'd seen high society like 20 times, as a kid. So I think that in my mind, it always felt like Dexter and Tracy were destined. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that the movie to me is more about them getting over themselves and getting back together, where they belong. And I definitely am connected enough with this movie to root for that.
Yeah, but I mean, she has to have a pretty serious emotional breakthrough for that to happen to begin with.
I mean, yes, but I mean, I think there's clues throughout. Like, deep down, she always sort of knew. She knows who's really right for her.
I don't know. Maybe it touched a nerve for me a little bit deeper than for you. That's all I can guess.
I mean, I'm connected to, but this is what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for this couple to get together. This smart alecky couple. Davy Joe, I'm sorry we've dominated. What have you guys, like, all that we've discussed? Do you have anything you want to break ties on?
Well, I'll go back to when we're talking about The Great Dictator, and I mean, definitely it's the difference between a film, something that Chaplin definitely directed aggressively, incredibly well, and this is not. This is theater. It's an amazing piece of writing, and incredible actors, and a director who just pointed the camera and got out of the way and let them just kick ass. I mean, it was just great. Like, you could listen to any. I could put this on an iPod and just listen to it at work. It's just great. I'll probably put it on tonight. I mean,
I can just picture you falling asleep to the witty banter of the Philadelphia Story. I mean, I have no. I think I want to be very clear that I'm being very nitpicky, and I will say it is, in terms of screenplays and dialogue, it's one of the strongest screenplays of all time.
Yeah.
There's no question about it, and I'm giving it very high praise.
Okay.
But I mean, we're talking, we're being nitpicky right now because of all the classics that we've talked about. Sure. I mean, this one lacks more cinematic value, and it's more lacking than a lot of the ones we've talked about, especially things like, people often say maybe we should compare apples to apples more. Well, here is an opportunity. Both these films were nominated for Best Picture. We got two films that were nominated for Best Picture, 1940, Great Dictator, and now Philadelphia Story, so we can compare apples to apples. And I feel like you look at them together, as we have, within a 6-week period that we've watched these two films. And I mean, I think, in that mindset, I mean, I watched them within a month of each other. With that mindset, Philadelphia Story pales in comparison.
Well, I mean, I certainly don't think. I mean, if we're talking about Best Director, clearly Chaplin.
Well, I mean, don't forget Stewart also beat him. Stewart beat Chaplin for Best Actor. He beat Henry Fonda in Grapes of Wrath for Best Actor, and he beat Laurence Olivier and Rebecca for Best Actor. So, I mean, like, you talk about a makeup Oscar, but then you look at who lost, and it's like, WTF?
Well, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's incredible. By the way, what a year!
Yeah, what a year! Jesus Christ!
But I mean, look at. I mean, I just watched this, and I think that you know, maybe this is a better screenplay. The other ones are better films overall, and maybe, you know, Henry Fonda, you could say, was maybe a better you know, a better performance. But boy, you know, this is just, as far as just writing and dialogue, just dialogue. Wow, it's pretty impressive.
Also, I mean, you know, I will totally give you that any of the movies that you named maybe deserve more accolades than they got. I would definitely agree with you that Stewart doesn't necessarily deserve an Oscar for this performance. But I don't think I can agree with you by saying that this movie was less important from a pop cultural standpoint. This is a pretty big move. I mean, seeing these three...
I'm not suggesting that it's not important from a pop culture standpoint.
Well, I thought you were. I'll back.
I never suggested that. I mean, like, what I suggested was, I mean, like, certainly its legacy is greater than The Great Dictator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
this has a remake as a musical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, in terms of most people, there's lots of people, and this movie is extremely digestible. Like, that ex that loves this movie, that I introduced her to this movie, and she loves it, she would have a hard time sitting through The Great Dictator. You know what I mean? Like, this is more digestible to a wider audience.
Sure.
So it's more of a, what we would call today, a 4-quadrant movie, in the sense that it appeals to the, you know, critics and audiences alike.
Yeah.
Like, its screenplay, you know, is strong and all that stuff. But there was another, you know, in that very same year, we talked about 1940. In the very same year, there's another screenplay that's even better called His Girl Friday, also with Cary Grant.
Right.
Have you guys seen His Girl Friday?
No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I mean, that's a movie that does have all the banter, all the witticism, all the cleverness, and social relevance. You know, for its time, like, it has all this stuff about corrupt government and you know, it was in the middle of it was towards the end of the Depression, but I mean, like, you know, the working class and things like that. So much going on in His Girl Friday in the middle of this, what is apparently a light comedy. And you talk about influence. His Girl Friday has been remade 5 times, strangely enough. So it is, you know, that's another example of a great screenplay from the very same year that makes me think less of The Philadelphia Story in its own way. I mean, and as much as I enjoy it, I like it, but then you know, I
wish you could divorce yourself. I wish you could divorce yourself from the year, because I understand what you're saying. There was a lot of competition that year for a lot of great.
I mean, well, I enjoy the film. I started out by saying that I like the film a lot, but I mean, like, for the sake of this discussion and not us just talking about, oh, it's another great classic. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, like, I do feel like, and I'm not doing this on purpose, but I mean, week after week, you know, we're like, this is another really good classic. You know what I mean? Like, they're really good films. I mean, we want to cover between Vertigo and All Quiet on the Western Front and The Great Dictator. I mean, we've been, you know, like, just lapping up these films. But I mean, like, I feel like, especially compared to those films and the other films from 1940, this film has some flaws. It's missing some things for me, and cinematic qualities are one of them.
All right, fair enough. I see your point there.
Davey?
Yeah, I mean, I do see what you're saying, and I just I guess for whatever reason, and I don't always do this, as you know, I just kind of focus on the strengths in this movie.
Very rare that you would do that, as it happens.
But I mean, you know, say what you want about Jimmy Stewart's performance and how other performances that year were better. I do think that this performance is perfect. I think he takes what's there and he does as well.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, him giving this performance is like us going to work in the morning. Like, you know, like, the effort that he put in is, you know, it's like it was easy for him. Eyes closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that it was the birthday screening, and I was really looking forward to it. So I mean, like, there's an element of that too. Is I was like excited. It was my birthday. I was in a good mood. It was the afternoon, and people were coming over, and I was very relaxed, and I was really excited. And for the first time in watching it, I just felt something was missing, and not in I mean, like, I laughed, and like, there were things that continued to impress me, but for the first time, I just felt like there was there was something lacking in this movie, and I had to get to the bottom of it. You know what I mean? And so I tried to just mentally explore that. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not trying to like say it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying to say I don't love it the way I thought I would. Like, for example, let's take a look at this photo real quick. We saw a little bit earlier. This is the final frame of the film. If you remember, they get their photo taken. I mean, like, it's just slightly over the top, just like ever so slightly, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this adds to the farcical, argument that we were having. I feel like, I see what you're saying about maybe the loneliness aspect, but I mean, like, I feel like for all intents and purposes, it could have been a Three's Company episode.
No, easy.
No, don't get me wrong. Three's Company is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. That's not a criticism. It's just an example of, I mean, like, Three's Company was farce. It was like old time farce, like people walking indoors, mistaken identity, like misunderstandings. That's the hallmark of what is farce.
I don't think that I wouldn't go that far with this personally, but sure.
And then, I mean, again, I'm saying, this same plot, put to music and done in color with these other actors, had a greater effect on me.
You are a big fan of musical theater.
So, I mean, it's not even against the plot itself, but I mean, the music gives it some, like a lot of energy, I have to say, because they add Louis Armstrong as well to High Society.
Yeah.
As a sort of, like, he's a narrator. They move High Society to Newport. It takes place in Newport, Rhode Island, and it revolves around the jazz festival.
All right.
And so Louis Armstrong's in it, and so there's some fun stuff going on with Bing and Louis, and also there's this great duet between Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra, something that people had always wanted, and it's such a great movie moment. Do you guys know the Cole Porter song, Did You Ever?
Maybe.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, my jazz boy knows that song. Yeah. So that originated in High Society as a duet between Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. Have you heard it's in the stars? Next July we collide with Mars.
Keep going.
Oh, did you ever? What a swelling, elegant party this is. All right, that's our. Before we get to that's our what do you call it? Our thingy, our buzzer. Before we get to the bracket. Does that mean you're totally sick of talking about this movie? Is that what they applaud me?
No, I was applauding your song. It took me a little while to get there.
Thank you very much. What do you guys have closing thoughts that you want to say about the Philadelphia story before we get to the bracket?
Yeah, JB, you're right. It sucked. I'm sorry. I take it all back.
I did not say that. Damn you, and mofo. I did not say that.
What a terrible movie. Jeez.
Joe. Davey Joe, closing thoughts?
Not really. I liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
All right. So before we shoot, I did the wrong thing here. Well, I'm glad you liked it quite a bit. And Davey Joe, for what it's worth, I feel like you are you're liking a lot of the indies that we're watching so far.
Yeah, the classics.
That's what I meant, the classics. Yes. So that brings us right to, as we get close to 10 o'clock Eastern, classic movie showdown. Dun 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 dun. This is a very popular part of our broadcast, as some of you watching know that the classic movies are some of our more successful broadcasts here. So just a quick reminder, we do this every week, of the rules of the classic movie broadcast. So here they are. Both films are shown at screenings that I hosted within a 12-month period. And voters are eligible if they see both films within that period. I need to be at the films, and I'm ineligible to vote. Interestingly enough, this year's film was was exactly 12 months away, because this film went up against last year's birthday movie, which was screened recently in Bryant Park, actually. So this is the showdown. This is the brackets for this week. The AFI bracket, Philadelphia Story's 11 seed going up, number 6 seed Chinatown. Now, Jay Money, you were supposed to come with me to Bryant Park, and you failed to do so.
Yeah, I was in an entirely different state, which is a pretty good excuse for not going to Bryant Park.
It's flimsy if you ask me. I had to move because I had to stretch because my back is starting to hurt. As my hosts in here in Riverdale, Bronx, New York, are coming out. How you doing, big guy?
We are amazing.
They're amazing. We're just about to compare Philadelphia Story to Chinatown, bracket-wise.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Have you other guys seen Philadelphia Story? Some guests here, Vanessa and Greg. You can't see them, but they're very handsome. They're not wearing clothes at the moment, but, you know.
Vanessa's not handsome.
She looks like Peter Pan.
Is this the Philadelphia Story with Tom Hanks?
Nope, not with Tom Hanks.
No.
So
What about Denzel Washington?
no, he's not in it either.
No, I don't know that.
But if we did a remake today, maybe we should have Tom Hanks as Dexter and Denzel as Mike Connor. What do you guys think?
I can see that. That could happen.
I like it.
So, Davy Joe, have you seen Chinatown?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you rewatch it for this week?
I haven't seen it recently, but I have seen it more than once.
Do you like the film?
Oh, I love the film. I love the film.
J Money, I because we talked about it at the last CMS, you like the film as well.
Yep, quite a bit.
In fairness, I think I should tell. I don't get to vote, so I should tell the audience that it's my second favorite film of all time. And eventually, and those of you that are watching know what my seventh favorite film of all time is, and my fifth. They both come up. Do you guys remember 5 and 7? Do you guys listen to me at all?
What?
Something?
Pinocchio.
Do you remember my 5th and 7th favorite movies, Davey?
Was Annie Hall one of them?
It was. You remember which one?
7?
There he goes. Look at that. He's quiet, but he listens.
Point Break. Dirty Dancing. No?
Not films that we've talked about. No. I
All
do like Dirty Dancing, though. So what do you guys think of this matchup, Chinatown versus Philadelphia Story? Davy Joe, you go first.
Chinatown, better all-around film. I think arguably Philadelphia Story, just pure writing, not even all-around writing, just dialogue. Philadelphia Story probably has better dialogue, but the Chinatown, better film.
J Money.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. I mean, for me, Chinatown definitely wins, and obviously I just stuck up for the Philadelphia Story a few minutes ago. So saying that, overall, Chinatown, just a better rounded story. I don't know. You know, I always hesitate to say these kind of things because I feel like it certainly speaks to me more because it's a little more modern, because I appreciate the performances.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that really biases me, but it's just in terms of like what I consider, you know, my kind of movie, regardless of what I think about criticism. Chinatown is my kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this case it's not an issue of bias, because Chinatown is also one of the greatest screenplays of all time. The structure is undeniable. So I think that it is, it is almost closer to apples comparison. And Chinatown takes place in the, I guess the late 30s, around the same time as Philadelphia Story. So at least it has that going for it. So yeah, I mean, it's my second favorite film of all time. I don't get to vote, so that's kind of moot. But it was a unanimous vote at our discussion. Like it wasn't even close. Chinatown. But it's interesting. Chinatown went up against a different movie at our last CMS, and Vanessa and Greg were there. They're in their bedroom right now. But they were responsible partially for causing some controversy as far as Chinatown's concerned.
Yeah, they're making babies now.
Glad they're not here to hear you say that.
They're just rallying it up. They're just rallying up the audience before, and they're.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, so Chinatown is not. I mean, like for the LA screening that we had it in June, it was unanimous, and Chinatown was universally loved and admired and impressed and impressed people. Not so much at this most recent Bryant Park screening. So we'll see if Chinatown continues to do well in the brackets. But I remember at the screening, J Money's like, Chinatown is Chinatown. That was his primary argument.
I didn't even have to think about it. I think as soon as you asked me, immediately out of my mouth, Chinatown. It was just yeah, that's a superior movie for a lot of reasons.
So, which is not it's not to say Philadelphia Story is a bad movie, but and Chinatown's the higher seed in fairness. So there you have it. So all right, guys, what do you guys think? Brackets are done. We're gonna wrap this up. You guys have any closing thoughts about Philadelphia Story or Chinatown?
No.
Was Chinatown made into a musical?
No.
Yeah, I might commission a writer and work on that. Though.
That could be something that'd be a good challenge. I mean, so by that logic, I mean maybe Philadelphia Story should have won. I mean,
Whoa.
Philadelphia Story had a couple of interpretations.
What logic is that?
It has songs involved, and there's people that are not dancing, but still probably strumming or something. They're doing something that's really nice. I'm just saying.
I mean, like, there's not like let me say there's not dance. There's not dance breaks. You know what I mean?
Okay. If you were going to cast a Chinatown musical, who would you put in it today? That's a really good theater.
And now am I casting it from my musical theater contacts?
Or yes, you can cast it from your contacts, or
In that question, Norbert Leo Butts as Jake, without question.
who?
Well, that shows you how much you know about musical theater, because that's a Tony-winning actor right there. Currently, can be seen on Netflix on the hit show Bloodline.
No, I really didn't hear you. So I don't know what you said.
Oh, I said Norbert Leo Butts.
Oh, okay. I guess I know who that is.
Who is he on Bloodline?
What's that?
Who is he on Bloodline?
He's brother Kevin, the short brother.
Okay.
Who would Hugh Jackman be?
Hugh Jackman? I guess Hugh Jackman can do it. He's a singer.
Let's say in terms of like film musical, like who would you cast in terms of film musical?
I don't know. I mean, I think we should wrap things up and move on to our next segment in 23 minutes.
Right.
I can say that in our next segment, which is we're going to try something new. We have been doing the freeform discussion at the end of these broadcasts, but now we're going to make it its own discussion. It's going to be on at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. And it's going to be a freeform discussion followed by the return of the top 5. And I'm going to do top 5 films set in Philadelphia. See, there you go. So that'll be the top 5 at the end of the evening. So that'll come in about 22 minutes, our next broadcast and our 4th of the evening.
Yep.
So that's kind of exciting. Are you guys looking forward to that?
Pumped.
Yeah, you could also make it earlier at this point, I think, if you wanted. We certainly didn't advertise for 10:30, so you want to boost it earlier.
Well, I mean, let's. I mean, I think we should close down and discuss this offline.
With yourself. I'm trying to give you an out to actually tell people when to tune in, but if you'd rather do it then, whatever.
Well, I mean, yeah, let's not waste people's time. Davey Joe, do you have any closing thoughts about Philadelphia Story?
I know.
Well, I just want to point out very clearly that I like the film a lot. I just don't love the film, and I feel like there's better examples of this kind of film, both in the 40s and actually mainly in the 40s is what I'm referring to. His Girl Friday is a really good example. Bringing Up Baby is a little crazier, but significantly more fun. So that's my 2 cents. But I really enjoy the Philadelphia Story a great deal. So I want to be. I've been the naysayer here and devil's advocate, but I want to make that part clear. All right, guys. Let's say goodbye for now, and we'll catch them very soon with our freeform segment. Okay. See you all very shortly.